All right. Are we on? Well, good morning. Happy December 20th, 28th, I believe. It's the 7 days into the government shutdown. Welcome everyone who's watching us today and also who's going to be watching us later on today. I'm Christian Cano, and I want to welcome you once again to Coffee and Panduce. And I have with me our wonderful neighbor, Mr. Tony Foreman. So, Tony, you want to introduce yourself today?
Yes, good morning, everyone out there. Thank you for being with us this morning. It is a divine pleasure. May everyone have a happy new year and then everything that you are hoping for comes through for you. Thank you.
Yes. I hope everyone had a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holidays, or Hanukkah, or Kwanzaa, or whatever you're celebrating, Festivus, as we did last week. But I do want to thank everyone. This is going to be our last show of the year of 2018. And appropriately, the topic that we're going to be talking about today is 2018, our Latinx community. What have we accomplished in 2018 and what we should be looking forward to as we go into our wonderful new year. So I want to welcome everyone who's watching us currently on our Coffee Panduce Facebook page. Also want to welcome those who are watching us on YouTube, who will be watching us later, and also the other individuals that are watching us on the other outlets like in Massachusetts and the other states that our wonderful producer has us streaming live on. So it's just going to be you and I, Tony, today. So I hope we can carry the show.
Oh, I'm quite confident that we can.
Well, yeah, I don't have a concern that we're not going to be able to do it. Normally we would have Miss Ruth Perez, who's also with us. She's an unaffiliated voter, so we like to have that voice. And then we also try to reach out to a conservative voice, and also a more libertarian voice. Jeff Scott, who has been accepting our invitation, is with his family, I believe, in California on the holidays. And then we also wanted to have a conservative voice. And unfortunately, our conservative neighbor who lives around the corner is not able to meet us again. So hopefully in 2019 we'll have a more variety of voices to discuss the topics. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. Before we do that, I want to talk about our button of the week. So I'm wearing today a button called 99%. And this is a button I received, or I got, at the National Organization of Women group that I'm a member of here in Charlotte. And I encourage everyone to join your local chapter of your National Organization of Women now. I'm a big supporter. I'm a feminist. And I really believe that 2019 is going to be another year of the woman, but it's going to be the year of the women of color. So I think we're going to have a great 2019 for women of color out there. I also have my Now t-shirt. And the reason I wore this today was because my TCU Horned Frogs won the Cheez-It Bowl on Wednesday night in double overtime after throwing 9 interceptions. So we're in the midst of bowl season, bowl mania. So if you're a college football fan like I am, good luck with your teams as we move forward. All right, and then of course we have our imaginary button. So if you and I are talking too long, push our imaginary button. And if you out there, please type something in if you feel like that we are talking too long. So let's go ahead and go directly into our topic.
Can I interrupt you?
Sure, go ahead.
Can we toast?
Oh, I forgot. Thank you, Tony. Salute.
Salute.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, and so thank you, Tony. And today's Panduce is actually more Americanized. It is a toast with honey, and it's not. I don't believe it's butter. It's a healthy butter spread, because I'm trying to get a little healthier for 2018. All right, so let's go into let's talk about what we have accomplished in this year. 2018 was a very interesting year, I think. I mean, we saw so many things happen just here in Charlotte, also in North Carolina as well. We saw, for an example, the 27G program. We elected a brand new Sheriff McFadden, and who ran on pretty much a platform of stopping the agreement that the county had with the 27G program, and that kind of put him over the top. And then also in the last several weeks, we had 2 other counties, I think one Wake County and another county, they have done away with their 27G programs as well. And so that occurred. Also, all of the ICE activity that's been happening in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, and specifically around North Carolina, that's been going on as well. So there's a lot of things that's been going on. So I'd like first to talk briefly and get your take on how you feel the 27G program is going to impact our Latinx community, our immigrant community, and those who were concerned about it during the election and also after the election.
Well, let's start with law enforcement.
Sure.
ICE was going around picking up individuals, and sad to say, some individuals that they picked them up, they profiled them, and they picked them up because they were Hispanic, had a green card, were not, in other words, they were here illegally. They were not allowed to call their family, and there were many instances of this. You can Google it. They were not allowed to call their family, a relative. They weren't allowed a phone call, and some were immediately deported, which is one of the problems that I had with 287G. Mm-hmm. Now, I understand from the point of view of law enforcement that there are some people, good people on both sides, no pun intended, but that yes, they break the law, but that doesn't mean that all Hispanics or all immigrants are law breakers. It's just not true. And that's why I used the term that was used by somebody else, good people on both sides. Sure. No matter where you go, you're going to find bad people. But you can't listen to the rhetoric of individuals that are trying to wreck the sovereignty of the United States, mm-hmm. the peacefulness that we have, by spreading lies. Mm-hmm. Migrants come here because of the situation in the country and where they live.
Sure.
I have another view on that, but I won't discuss it here. Because we have to be mindful of what the United States does in other countries.
Sure.
So to what extent, remember the Contra situation, mm-hmm. in California and what happened with the crack epidemic. I'm trying to make a point here. Yeah. To what extent are we responsible? So now these people are leaving their homes, tracking thousands of miles to leave down. Who wants to leave what they grew up at? It doesn't make any sense. So the point that I'm making is most migrants, they're coming here because they're seeking a better life. Sure. They're trying to get away from the situations in their country that are deplorable. Mm-hmm. When they get here, they want to work. Now, have you heard the term, immigrants are taking our jobs? That's a lie. The jobs that immigrants take, undocumented immigrants, they take the jobs that Americans mm-hmm. don't want to take. And we have to put that on the table. It's true.
I mean, I agree with you, and it's interesting that you kind of talked about that. That's very important because I do think there's an overall feeling for many individuals who, for example, I mean, we're in the midst of it right now with the government shutdown. It's basically being done because, in my view, President 45 is throwing a tantrum like a child on his border wall, and I don't think any rational person believes that we should build a wall, so to speak, because they'll just get bigger ladders, to go over the wall. But I think we all agree that we always need border security and so forth. But it's more of a political kind of talking point and political rhetoric to mm-hmm. kind of rile people up.
Right.
And I'm always amazed on how many people that I speak with, and you and I meet them all the time in our community. And even within our Latinx community and our immigrant community that are pro Trump's message or 45's message about curtailing immigration and so forth. And it's almost as if though there's this philosophy in many families that I've made it and I don't really care about, I don't care about you.
Yes, it is.
But yeah, I mean, that's an interesting point about there's this idea that, they're immigrants are our migrants are coming to take our jobs and so forth, and
they're criminals.
yeah, and of course we know
Which is not
that's
true.
not the case. It's all, but I hear people specifically in Charlotte. It's amazing to me that we hear it so much here in Charlotte, in our region here, when this city is built and is being built and was built on the backs of immigrants and on the backs of many of them are undocumented, who work in our construction industry, our service industry, our hospitality industry. When the RNC 2020 comes here, and a lot of people that are going to be working are not going to be are going to be immigrants and so forth. So they built this city and they continue, but yet we treat them so. It seems to be we treat them so poorly here in Charlotte.
I had two more points.
Sure.
Let's look at the immigrant, the undocumented immigrant. I'm an immigrant. I'm a U.S. citizen, but I wasn't born here, so I'm still an immigrant, and I recognize that. The undocumented immigrant, for the most part, and that's one of the problems that law enforcement. That's why Mr. Sheriff Gary McFadden wanted to get rid. Gives me 287 G's because the prior sheriff didn't understand that when a crime was committed, if an undocumented alien witnessed the crime, they would go into hiding.
Sure.
So
it actually made it less safe.
Yes, it made it less. Thank you so much. Less safer for the city if you have a person that witnessed a crime and wouldn't come forward because they were afraid that when they came forward they were going to be held. It is they're coming out to help solve a crime, and they're going to be taken into custody and then deported. So, point that I'm making is the undocumented alien hides for the most part. They play a low key role in the functions of the city. They're not out there. So who determined that they were such criminals?
I think it's more, yeah. I mean,
you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's more, political.
You don't even know
rhetoric.
that many of them are here, and they work, but they're not out there like us.
Well, it's interesting you say that when you say who determines,
Right.
that. I think anyone who is a history buff like I am, and many people are, in America, in the United States, and especially in politics, we're always looking for the boogeyman or the evil, individual.
Somebody to blame.
Exactly. And it's we like to blame others rather than accepting personal responsibility for our own failures. And the Republican Party loves to do that.
Yes.
And not to jump on the Republican Party, but there's not one here to defend them, so let's go ahead and just do that today. Back in the civil rights movement, they blamed African Americans or people of color for the failure of school systems, and they blamed immigration. They blamed, and then it became, we blamed women in the past. We blame Irish. We blame Italians. We always like to blame someone else rather than accept responsibility. Hey, maybe you just were not prepared to take advantage of the American dream, so to speak. We saw in the 90s with the AIDS crisis, we blamed gays, and it,
Africans.
Yes, Africans.
Monkeys.
You name it. We've always had someone to blame, and it does seem since President 45 took office,
the blame game is more prevalent.
Yes, it is. And the blame, the evil forces out there is split between Russians and immigrants. Specifically people from our Latinx neighbors, because there are many immigrants, and it's interesting when you look at people talk about immigrants. It seems to me that they're really talking about immigrants of color. They're not talking
Have you ever noticed that a lot of people don't pay attention to? You just hit a key point. Immigrants come from any other country that is not the United States.
From
and
Ireland,
there are many here.
from Canada, from a lot of the European countries, and they're treated more favorably.
No, they're not mentioned.
Yeah,
it's
they're not.
only the Hispanics.
Exactly, because that's why we need the wall in the South, because apparently no one can come from the North. It's like, but that's probably another show. So 287G has been in the news in 2018, and we're going to see what happens as we move forward. It's been in effect. Sheriff McFadden, to his word, eliminated the program the day after.
Immediately after being sworn in.
Other counties and two other major counties in North Carolina. So that was one of the things that occurred. Another issue has been ICE. The impact of ICE in 2018, which especially in this region where you had allegedly
which carried out the
Yes.
287G.
Exactly. And if that's going to, they have been threatening counties, saying, if you do eliminate or do not cooperate with the 287G
The state
program,
won't fund you.
yes. And we were at I was at a event that had Sheriff McFadden and Chief Putney, and there were ICE agents that were there trying to see what was going on. And there was a gentleman who asked a question about the 287G program, and he said, to the point, they like to use this term sanctuary city, and he was saying, how do we feel that Charlotte's now a sanctuary city?
Nowhere near.
New
York City is a sanctuary city.
Well, I don't. It's interesting how they try to use these terms to try to scare people. Sanctuary city. There's only 78 major cities that participate in the 287G program out of 3,000. I don't know how many. So either the 78 are the smartest cities, and we said this on one of our other shows, or the other 3,000 are the dumbest cities. I would think that.
Good point.
The case, but I don't know how that makes us a sanctuary city. I don't know if you want to speak to that, or if that's just.
Well, let's
get rid of 287G. Does it make
what's
us
a sanctuary city? Just the term sanctuary. It's
Sure.
a church.
Yeah.
I personally, and I'm out in the community.
Sure,
I don't know of no churches here that house undocumented people. I don't. I haven't, and I'm not saying that it doesn't happen now, because of 287G, some people they determine that it's best to just remain silent.
Yeah.
It's sort of like the Underground Railroad.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know that it was happening unless you were a part of it. So in New York, I know for a fact we have sanctuary churches, and a place where the immigrants could come. Senator Cuomo is a big advocate of taking care of its immigrant population, documented or undocumented.
Sure.
He doesn't make a difference about the two. Now, I don't know how aware most people are, but ICE snuck in quite a few undocumented aliens that were apprehended in other places and snuck them into New York, which infuriated the governor there, and rightfully so. If you're coming into my city and you're going to bring in undocumented aliens that you grab wherever you grab them at, and bring them to my city, why would you bring them in on a cloak and dagger type style? What are you hiding?
Sure.
You understand what I'm saying?
You mean they apprehended him?
Someplace else.
Oh yeah. That's happened here in North Carolina.
And they took them from other places and took them to New York.
Oh.
Undercover.
Wow.
And they were filmed, because there are people that follow them.
Sure.
And they were caught hiding them in a specific place, and they were denounced.
You brought up a good point, and I know we're talking about, our topic is Latinx in 2018, and we've kind of moved towards immigration and so forth, but for many people that seems to be a topic that we've been talking about for 2018.
Oh, it was the hottest point for 2018 for Hispanic.
And it still is. How do you believe, and I know you are a big fan of our mayor, and I appreciate the fact that you are. I am not as big of a fan of our mayor, mainly because the RNC vote. I really felt like that I wish she would have given as much effort to other topics as much as she did to the RNC. She had never written an op-ed before, but she wrote an op-ed in the Charlotte Observer about the RNC. But we've never seen an op-ed written by her about immigrants, about things, other issues that I think may be just as important as the RNC coming to Charlotte. How do you feel, or do you think that our city council, and it's just not the mayor, but the city council and the county commissioners, do you think they have given a good effort to make our immigrant community and our Latinx community feel welcome and embraced here in Charlotte?
They haven't. And I think there are reasons for that. I like to be fair as possible.
No, not on this show.
Considering what Charlotte is today as opposed to what Charlotte was 20 years ago.
Sure.
Today, Charlotte is a sprawling, beautiful, growing, inviting city. I forgot what's the number of families that come here.
It was 60 something a day, I think.
A day, something like that.
Yeah. At what
it was
point?
40 something.
Yeah,
few months back. And the thing is, I first of all, let's be fair to the mayor. She's new.
Well,
Jennifer Roberts supported.
okay.
I love Jennifer. Jennifer, if you're watching, I love you. You're my girl. But
I hope Mayor Roberts is watching.
but the truth is the truth. And here, we speak the truth as best as we can. Now, I don't think Revival is that well apprised of what's really going on with the immigrant
But why
population.
not? I mean,
Well, she's the mayor now. Now we can hold her accountable.
yeah.
I wouldn't hold her accountable for what happened before she was the mayor. Correct?
Well, no, that's true, but in all fairness, she ran on and today she runs on more of a platform of experience. She was in our city government for 20-something years. She retired from our city government. So she's not new to politics, and she's not new to, or she shouldn't be new to what's going on to Charlotte. So even though she's only been mayor for a little over a year now, or 2 years.
So you want me to be real candid?
Sure, go ahead. Please.
There's certain parts of the government here in Charlotte that doesn't give a hoot about immigrants.
Sure, yeah.
Let's be for
Yeah.
real. And anyone that wants to dispute that with me, come and dispute it with me. I'm on both sides.
Yeah.
Okay?
So back to mayor. I mean, what do you
Yeah,
think?
to the mayor. No, I think that she would come up to the plate and do the right thing in time. We're just, who's she, 1 year into?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're going on a
Yeah.
new election year, so I'm sure
Yeah.
we'll be finding out. I'm sure she'll be running again.
Will be,
I
no,
would
but
assume.
look. We elected her.
Mhm.
I voted for her.
I voted for her.
Okay? I'm glad that we're raising this point
Sure,
because we're talking about Latinx
sure.
2018.
Mhm.
This is 2019
Yeah.
coming
Yeah,
in about 4 days.
yeah.
I think what we need to do, as you stated, there's a new race. There's a race coming up.
Mhm.
Let's hold her to it.
Sure.
Let's do what we did to Carmichael, what we did to several other elected officials. Let's hold her to it. Let's show up at the events. Let's invite her to come and confront the Hispanic community.
I'm glad you said that because I did want to talk about that, about 2018, and perfect segue into the same topic but a different conversation. The power of our Latinx community and the political power. I don't think that we have ever seen the true power
Yes.
of our immigrant and Latinx community in Charlotte.
2018, yes.
And we saw a glimpse of it in 2018 with the effort to elect Sheriff McFadden, and the topic was 287G, and the allies that ACLU, Action NC was really, really big. The other group that likes to take credit for a lot of things,
Yeah.
that group,
We won't mention
yeah, we will mention their name. They did a really good job, but I think we saw a glimpse of what the possible voting and political power is going to be and can be here in Charlotte and in Mecklenburg County and in North Carolina if our Latinx community or immigrant community organize and use their strength, similar to the Black Political Caucus's power in the past. I see that growing more in 2019. I know Ruth spoke about the numbers, the amount of record numbers of Latinx individuals that voted.
12,000 voted in this election here. I still think that because of 287G and ICE, it was a little minuscule compared to, it's 40, upwards of 40,000 by now, of registered Hispanics. There's a huge diaspora of the Latin community here in Charlotte.
And many of them may not even identify themselves as Hispanic on the census. They consider themselves white. They don't go to the ethnicity part. They just go to the race part. So yeah, maybe more than what we believe.
I think that was purposely done.
Sure.
To alienate
as far as the
us,
census thing.
to alienate us.
Sure.
And some Hispanics just don't really know.
Sure.
You know, they see Hispanics for the most part. We stay in our own community, which I think it's wrong. I think we need to mingle a little bit more, get a little more involved.
Sure. Well, most I'm sure most immigrant populations.
Yeah.
And we've talked about this before, and I talked about it with our producer earlier and many times about how the Latinx or Hispanic community in Charlotte, North Carolina is such a young. You're still looking at first and second generation, and possibly even in Charlotte in third, whereas in other states, New York, California, Texas, Arizona, Florida, fourth, fifth
They've been
generation.
stable there for quite a
so
few years.
politically they're entrenched in the political environment, and we don't have one Latinx elected member at a state level yet. That's right. And we also don't have any, obviously, at the federal level. We have very, very few, maybe in the Wake County area. I'm not exactly sure at the city level, and I think we're going to see that. But
So you're talking about statewide?
Yeah, statewide. And so we obviously there's a lot of room to grow compared to the population. But 2019, I think, and you said something that was very important. I think it's going to be a very important year for our Latinx community to start showing their strength, or our strength and our power in the 2019 election cycle, because we're looking at city council races, we're looking at mayoral races, possibly what looks like, and we'll be talking about this at the end of the show, about the new election for congressional seat number 9. It looks like it's going to have to be redone. But more importantly, it's not just those races. You're also looking at how we fit into the political parties. We know that the Latinx community cannot be pigeonholed. There are just as many Republicans who are Latinx as there are Democrats and unaffiliated and Libertarian and the Green Party. Now we have the new Constitution Party. It's time for our community to flex our muscles in those parties, because that's just as important.
Excellent point.
Yes, because we're looking at here very soon elections in Mecklenburg County, and those who are watching us all around North Carolina and Union County and all the other counties, Wake County and so forth. You're looking at elections at the precinct level. Who's going to be your precinct chair? Who's going to be your county chair? Who's going to be your state chair? And I can only speak as a Democrat and as a person who once held an honorary, volunteer elected position at the state executive committee, with very, very little representation at the state level in the Democratic Party for our own party. So do we want another white woman as the county chair here in Mecklenburg County? Do we want another white guy as the state chair? I think it's time that we start flexing our muscles and let's, my goodness gracious, I mean, I don't think we have ever had at the Democratic Party state chair, a person of color. We've had a woman, we've had women as state chair, but we've never had a person of color as our state chairperson in the Democratic Party. And is 2019 the year the time for us to finally have the party as a Democrat
I say yes.
represent. Yeah, I mean,
I say yes.
I mean, we have a white woman who's a state chair, county chair at Union County. We have a white woman who is a county chair here in Mecklenburg County. Both of those individuals, Jane Whitley and the lady in Union County, they're not engaged in the Latinx community. If there's a gay event, they're at the gay event, but they never go to any Latinx events. You never see them.
Could
They
it be
only-
because they think that we don't matter? Let's
Well, of course,
be candid.
no, that's true. I mean, that's my
We
view.
don't matter.
I mean, actions speak. I think actions
With
speak louder than words.
40,000 votes, I think we could let them know
Yeah.
and show them that we do matter. And I'm gonna tell you something.
Sure.
I will do everything that I can along with Mr. Cano. We're gonna do everything that we can. Let me make this perfectly clear. To put the Hispanics in a situation where they will be able to sit at the round table and discuss the whole Latinx problem
Sure.
and advocate for Latinx.
Yep.
Because what we believe in is no taxation
Without
without representation.
Exactly. I mean, I'll give you perfect. I mean, we just talked for quite a while about how important the 287G program was to the sheriff's race, and we did not hear one word from the Mecklenburg County chairperson Jane Whitley or the Union County chairperson during that time period. As a matter of fact, Jane Whitley was supporting the former sheriff
Yes.
Carmichael, and she never attended any of the events, any of the community events that talk about. She never attended any of it. So obviously that was not an important issue for her. But my goodness, if there's a gay event, she's there in a second. Or my goodness, if she'll sneak into the Black Political Caucus meetings and sit in the back, and then she'll leave. So obviously people of color are not important to her, and I think the history shows. Obviously, I'm not a big fan of Jane.
And
Yeah.
we're not saying that about her actions.
Exactly.
Her
It's the actions.
Are saying that
or the
that's
lack
where
of
she
actions.
stands. Or lack of, yes.
Yeah, and so I do think that 2019 is an opportunity for our Latinx community to flex our muscles politically in the Democratic Party, and I also believe that that can also be done in the Republican Party as well, and the Libertarian Party, the Green Party, the Constitution Party, or those who are unaffiliated, which the majority of Latinx people
I have a take on that, Connell. I'm glad that you said that so that we could discuss that publicly.
Well, I'm glad I said it as well.
No, we have to look at things for what they are. The reality of the matter is that we can't just vote, we can't just be, we cannot just follow, and we're talking about Latinx,
Sure.
the Democrats. You see, being that they all see us the same way, we need to be on not both sides, but all sides. So we need elected officials as Republicans, as Libertarians. You understand what I'm saying? We need to be all over. We need to educate our Latinx population the importance of voting, because you may not know, but if you do go study your history, in Latin countries, voting is very important.
Sure.
People get killed, not like here. And I'm talking about really killed over a vote. So that the Hispanic community wants to vote, because once they become a citizen, that's the first thing they want to do. When could I vote? Who do I vote for? They're very eager. But we have to be not on both sides, on all sides.
Exactly, and I think we talked about this before about how diverse our Latinx community is. Not only are we diverse in our political views, but we're
Yes.
also diverse in our cultures and our the things that our family. We saw, and I believe that Mark Harris was elected this past because of the influence of Latinx women.
Oh, yeah?
I believe that there were many Latinx women that voted for Mark Harris for not only his religious views, but also because they were so turned off by Dan McCready's servant lover ads. The servant lover ads were targeted towards white women who were going to vote for him anyway. We just saw every day 5 to 6 to 7 to up to 10 commercials a day with the white woman, saying, "Oh, I see that Mark Harris is servant lover," and this, but those Latinx women who are evangelical or tend to follow more of a religious belief, like Pastor Harris, Dr. Harris does, they found that very offensive because there are many Latinx women.
Should.
Well, I think they found it very offensive because they were saying the word servant lover, and in many families, women they play different roles. It's kind of hard to explain because I would consider my grandmother, for example, who is still alive, to probably would be considered a servant lover, where she was very loyal to my
It's just a
grandfather.
culture.
Yes,
It's
I
just a
don't
culture.
think that meant she was less equal. She just played a different role, obviously, than my mom and my sister do, and my nieces do in their relationships, or that maybe we do in our relationships, so to speak. So that it was almost as if though someone was making fun of a stay-at-home mom, as if though her role is less equal
Submissive.
than yes, that's my take, because that's what I was hearing from people, and so I think that may have played a role. I mean, I know that both of those parties are probably doing polling and finding out how they're going to do. But I've digressed to a completely different topic. Dreamers, how do you think they did in 2018?
Dreamers, to me, are still in limbo. These are youngsters that were brought here when they were very young. They had no say in the decision that was made to bring them here. They attended the public school system. For the most part, they're all law-abiding youngsters. They're college material. They are part of not just the future of the United States, but they're entrepreneurs.
Sure. Well, they are the future.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're the future, and I think there are people that see this as a hindrance to further their agenda, and therefore they don't want to see. And again, it's Hispanics.
Sure.
Okay, because you got Japanese, you got they do very well.
Yes.
The Chinese,
Yeah.
they do very well. The Koreans, you don't hear them out there fighting, and if you do, it's only a few of them.
Sure.
You don't hear them fighting for their rights. You know why?
Because they're embraced, or
No,
they're
they embrace,
Yeah.
and they have rights.
sure. That's a very good point, and I know it's a very sensitive subject that sometimes we're afraid to talk about. But as we've been doing these shows, I think we have been braver to kind of say it the way it is. But I do believe that there is this underlining. And I was talking to our producer before the show. I wish there was a different word that we could use in 2019 other than racism and bigotry, because it seems like we use it so much, or we have used it so much since President 4-5 was elected, that the meaning of that has gone away. To call someone a racist or a bigot, people are like, it doesn't really mean that much to them. I don't know what word we can use, but there is this underlining racism, and not all it's racism, some of it is bigotry, that is towards our Latinx community, especially here in North Carolina, especially here in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County. We've seen it, or we've seen it in the past with our African American community and our Black community, and they have overcome so much here in Charlotte.
Well, I think those two communities overlap each other when it comes to injustice.
Sure, yeah.
When it comes to abuse. And if
You mean the Latinx
yes, in the
Black
African, the black
okay.
community.
Sure.
And if you look at history,
Sure.
they both pretty much have suffered the same ailment.
I agree with you, but it seems like here in Charlotte and Mecklenburg County, for those of us who've lived outside of the state of Mecklenburg County, it seems to be more, I don't know how to word this, it seems to be more accepted to be a racist and bigot towards Latinx people than it is to black people here. First of all, it's unacceptable to do it to anyone, but it's almost as if though the white Charlotte or the old white Charlotte, and it has nothing to do with politics. We have just as many racists and bigots in the Democratic Party.
It has to do
even more. I call them the bless your heart racists. Our former state chairperson before this last one, she was the biggest racist and bigot I've ever met. And she was hounding me about wearing my cowboy hat. And I wear it in honor of my grandfather, and also in my culture that's something that we wear. And she would not give up. God, my goodness gracious, this lady would not. You try to be as polite to this person. She even came to one of our events one time, and
she's a Latinx.
No, she's not. Oh. She's this old white lady, and she came up and she said, "Now explain to me once again." This is like a year after I had told her why I wore the cowboy hat or whatever. And then I tried to shift the topic, and I said, well, and she said, now, is this a country, is this a Hispanic thing or whatever? It's one of those, bless your heart, it's like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it's like the old Southern racism, like,
I'm being nice to you.
Exactly, but they're really kind of just trying to put you in their place. And in Charlotte, it's almost as if though because we are new to them, so to speak, that they don't know how to talk with our community and so forth. So they either are completely avoiding us or they're trying to figure out how to talk with us. Where they've had time to talk with the African American community and understand there's ways
I was
and
going to I was going to allude to that.
Sure.
I think that's what the difference. Where there's a difference. You have the African community, and a lot of people just draw reference to Martin. It wasn't just Martin. It was a host of black prominent individuals that fought for civil rights, and it was Martin and Malcolm, and I mean it's a host of them. I could go on down the line. And we're in a position now as, I don't know if y'all remember, I said I'm on both sides.
Yeah.
I'm a black Hispanic, so I'm on both sides. I understand both sides. I study both sides. I found a balance between the both, and therefore I could speak on both. And I could debate on both. Now, the black Americans have had a long fight here. And it's a fight that is continuing.
Yeah.
That saga hasn't ended.
Yeah.
The Hispanics are just coming up to the plate.
Yeah.
The Latinx community. We're just coming up to the plate. We're just realizing that we're not just workhorses, because Hispanics work. Don't let nobody fool you. They're not criminals. Okay? They don't come here to sell drugs. I know my mother had 4 jobs. Not 2, not 3, 4 jobs. She worked 2 jobs on the weekday. She worked in a factory, and then she went to work in another factory. And then on the weekend, we barely seen my mother. As a matter of fact, and Living Colors had a joke. The Jamaican joke.
I remember that.
By how many jobs you have? Me have 10 jobs. What? You're crazy.
Tony just dated himself. He said In Living Color. So if those who remember In Living Color was this great show by
The Williams brothers.
That was on Fox, and it was a great show. But
Yeah.
as a character.
Yeah, and that's a fact. That wasn't made a parody because it wasn't true. It was a fact.
Yeah.
Immigrants come here to work. Don't let anybody feed you that malaki, that greasy stuff. That's a lie. Immigrants are not primarily drug dealers and murderers and all the other things that somebody tells you on television. No, they are hard workers. They work real hard and they'll take on any job because they come here to work and to make sure that their families are okay. They didn't come here to commit crimes.
Tony, you said something that was really important, and for those who are watching now and those who are going to be watching this later, especially our millennials and our younger Latinx individuals, which demographically, that's really who we're after for our sponsors, by the way, as we go into 2019. Because once again, they have a lot of dispensable income. They are the fastest growing demographic in Charlotte, in Mecklenburg County, North Carolina, and in America. The median age of our Latinx individuals in North Carolina is, I think, 27 or 28. The median age for our black neighbors is in the 30s, and the median age for white, our Caucasian individuals, is in their 40s. So you can see that the future of our region and our demographically in the workforce and politically is our Latinx community. But I was watching Hulu late last night, and also I was watching this show over Christmas, and Michelle Obama, 2020 did a thing on Michelle Obama and her book, and one of the things she said was really important because I understood exactly what she was saying. She was talking about growing up in Chicago and then going to Princeton and then going to Harvard Law School, and she said that when she went to Princeton, and I'm paraphrasing this, that in her book, that it was the first time that she was around a majority white population, and it was difficult for her because she not only did she had one foot in the white world, which I understand that those of us who grew up in families that encouraged us to assimilate into the corporate world, I guess I can call it the white world, but it's the corporate world,
Call
whatever.
it what it is.
Yeah, and then you still have to come back home to your world, and you have cousins and so forth that call you, oh, you're trying to act white, or you're trying to talk white, or you're trying to. You have to live in both of those worlds, and it is difficult. But for those young individuals that are in that same situation currently now, millennials who are second, third generation, or even first generation Americans, that's going to make you so much stronger because it gives you a skill set, not only in the professional arena, in the political arena, in all arenas, to be able to walk in those worlds. So that rich white kid that grows up in Myers Park, that is going to a school that is not integrated, that is 99.9% lily white, because their parents want them to be in a neighborhood school. That's the new segregation line. They are going to have a disadvantage when they go into the workforce because they're not going to be able to. It's going to be more difficult for them. They're going to have less skills.
They won't know how to navigate.
Exactly. So
how to integrate.
And that's one of the things that I have found politically is I notice in our party and also in the Republican Party, you don't have a lot of candidates in the Republican Party. We have them in our Democratic Party, but we don't have as many in the Republican Party. And Jeff Scott's kind of an exception because he's lived in a different
He's
diversity.
well-rounded.
Yeah, very well-rounded. Our younger candidates are the skills they're bringing to the table, like Braxton, like Dimple, like even Larkson, Eggleston, I guess his name, and even the young man that got elected, I forgot his name.
Mark Jarrell?
Mark Jarrell and all of the Susan Hardin and all of these new individuals, their skill set and their diversity is so much it's very complementary for the future
Yes,
of our
I
city and
agree.
state, and
I
so they're
agree.
able to understand that. So when we have individuals that are running for office that don't get involved in the different communities, the different cultures, immigrant community, the black community, and the Muslim community, and the Asian community, which is also just as fast growing as our Latinx community, they're at a handicap because they don't understand the people, you know, and I'm not sure I was going with that. I think what
No.
I think,
No,
I think what I
you're
was,
perfectly,
yeah,
you're perfectly all right.
I think
'Cause-
I was trying to let those young viewers of ours know, who may feel struggled on a daily basis, whether they're going to CMS, whether they're going to a college or working in the workforce or whatever, and they have to live in the white world, and then they have to come home to their culture or their family's environment, that is making them stronger, that they are going to be better, their skill set is going to make them more valuable down the line. So that is a
hurts you.
good.
That hurt you only makes you stronger.
It
Remember that.
may not seem great at that moment, because I
Right.
remember going through that. I remember going to.
Well, comprehension
sure.
is limited.
Yeah.
So you can't appreciate the beauty of that person you're becoming because you haven't reached there yet. But I want to just draw reference to
Sure.
when you were talking about the newly elected
Sure.
people like Christie,
Yeah.
Mark Jarrell, Larson,
Yeah.
Bakari, all these individuals. Well,
Dr. Harlow.
I-
I know I'm missing some individuals.
I
that there's a lot
have
of-
2 or 3 of them that I don't think are exactly what it is that I'm talking about. Those individuals come from the school of hard knocks.
Sure.
They ran on a premise that I'm like you.
Sure.
I've been through this.
I walk in your
understand.
shoes.
I can empathize. Therefore, I'll understand and I'll be able to fight for your issue more.
And that is what's so to me. That is what's so exciting. Even though we've said, you know, the last couple of shows we've talked about some of the challenges that we face here in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and also in North Carolina. There's also some wonderful, wonderful news coming out because all politics is local.
Yes.
When you see this stuff going on locally, the type of candidates, the platforms that they're running on, and the ones that are winning, that's the future. That is our future. And so, even though I knock blue dog Democrats and,
No,
and all
you're
that kind
right.
of stuff,
You need to recognize that.
I only knock them because I know their days are numbered. That the future of Charlotte and North Carolina is truly progressive. I mean, we've got individuals at the city level.
I love what you're saying.
Yeah, and so that is really exciting news. And so as a Democrat, yes, the Democratic Party in North Carolina is still controlled by a few white individuals, you know, but those days are numbered. 5, 6, 7 years.
Trust me, those days are
Yes,
numbered.
yes, and the new individuals that are coming into our party, and I also believe within the Republican Party, you're seeing some changes maybe behind the scenes that's occurring. We're seeing less Robert Pittenger's run, and we're seeing more Matthew Rodenhauer's and Kenny Smith's and people who may not on the surface be diverse, but they live in the world that we all live in. And God, I wish I remember the young man's name who is on the Charlotte City Council. He represents Kenny Smith's old district. I can see him. He's always on the news with Larkin and
Bakari.
Yes, that's his name.
Bakari.
But yes, I'm sorry I can't remember his name, but he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Very diverse.
Then you have
lives in the
Matt.
world. Yeah, you got Matt Newton. You've got I knew I forgot a couple of individuals.
I think the face
Sure.
of Charlotte politically is changing, Carla. It's just a
Which is
matter
good.
of time. Oh, no,
Yeah.
it's excellent. Because, see, for you to have a city that's progressing, especially in technology,
Mm-hmm.
but First Ward, we have, what's that, Google?
Yeah.
That's there.
It makes it more appealing for companies. It makes it more appeling for people who want to live. it makes it, yeah.
You need those people
Exactly.
in the government that are going to understand what's going on. Remember, listen, I'm not that old, but I know that.
When you have to start a sentence off, I'm not that old.
But I know for a fact, looking at my elders, that the elders, for the most part, want to hold on to what they have. Sad to say, but true, all of us are going to go someday. But the elder ones, instead of passing the baton off to other people, they want to hold on
to it
to
as long
it.
as they can.
And they look, I'll be honest with you, I'm not going to mention any names, but in Charlotte government, there are a lot of individuals that should actually look, and I love them all. That's not the problem. That's why I won't mention it, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm offending them. I'm speaking the truth. We have to find that barrier that says, listen, you did your job, give you a nice big hurrah, use you as mentors, because they can still be mentors.
Exactly.
But when it comes to a city like Charlotte, that is so progressive, it's growing, and I'm talking about it's growing so fast. I was going down 277 the other day, and I looked around, I said to my wife, I said, you know, when I came here 3 years ago, nothing was there.
Yeah,
Look at this.
It's yeah. Well, to your point, I do agree with you that Charlotte is going through this cultural change and this demographic change, and one of the things that we have to do as a Latinx community, because, you know, we can't help everybody. I mean, you know, I mean, we got to help ourselves before we can help other people. One of the things that we can do is not only continue to honor the legacy of those that came before us, those individuals you're talking about, but reassure them that we're in the situations we are because of their struggles, and we have to make them feel comfortable.
And that happens in the Latinx community.
We
It's
do.
part of our culture.
We do. Our
It's
culture.
part of our culture.
Our culture is to honor the
Our
elders
elders,
and,
that's right.
and
That's
so
right.
forth, and not just throw them to the side. And I think we do. I hope we do a good job doing that. And then, as a result of that, the elders in our community generally they will mentor. They will say, now it's your time to move forward.
And you respect them when they're doing it.
Exactly. And so I do think Charlotte is going through some growing pains in that area. You do, and I go back to the political, you know, here in Charlotte, you have a bunch of people in politics that I consider the old guard, and they do not want to give up Charlotte. They're hanging on for dear life, even to the point that they'll just endorse anybody, just so they can have a little bit of influence. They have no impact on elections, but they love to get their name out there.
Could it be that it's because they see what's coming to Charlotte?
Yeah, that's true. But you know,
Or rather, where Charlotte is going.
Yeah, but I think that the companies that are moving here speaks volumes to the progress of North Carolina and what they see. Honeywell, all these companies that are relocating here or putting their headquarters here, they're not moving here because of the old guard. They're moving here in spite of the old guard. They're moving here because they see the future of Charlotte changing to a more diverse city, a more international city, and because, you know, they want their employees to be happy where they live, and so I think that's a sign that our city is moving forward. So we're running long, and the other thing I wanted to talk about very, very briefly, we only have about 10 more minutes, if that, is the Latinx in the Republican Party. We don't have anyone here to speak to that, but I can tell you that, and I said this before, that one of the failures that I see about the North Carolina Democratic Party is not only that we continue to try to hang on to the old northern state philosophy of, you know, just white people as chair people, which is, you know, I'm not sure how that ever, well, anyway, what we've learned in Texas and in Florida and in the states, that the Latinx political power has more influence. we are seeing how long it took, for an example, in Texas, which has been a majority Hispanic Latinx demographic for probably 10 years, and it's growing by the day. But yet, the majority of Latinx and Hispanics in Texas vote Republican. And a lot of people who aren't familiar, it just like my mom, for example, voted for Ted Cruz. It's hard to explain to people, luckily my dad voted for Beto.
It's your mom, Colonel.
Yeah, my brothers, you're not going to believe this. Mom's the only one in the neighborhood that doesn't have a Beto sign, and her or whatever. For various reasons, I see the same mistake that the Texas Democratic Party made towards our Latinx neighbors politically. The same mistake is being made here in North Carolina, because they have taken our Latinx community for granted for so long, and there's still time to recover. Mm-hmm. But when 287G was happening, when right now, as our immigrant, our state party chairman, Wade Goodman, has said nothing about 287G, about Dreamers, but he will stand up and talk about gays, and talk about equality marriage, and talk about women, and do this, but completely has ignored our Latinx community. I've seen Wade Goodman at a black church spew rhetoric, speaks completely different than he does in front of white people. It's a politician in him. Our Mecklenburg County chairperson, as I alluded to earlier, has completely ignored our Latinx community. There's no outreach for our Latinx community. As a matter of fact, our Hispanic Democratic Party here in Mecklenburg County has a very difficult time because it's difficult for them to. They're doing their best to outreach, but there's just there's no there's not a lot of outreach. I'm not saying there's an outreach within the Republican Party, but they do have a Spanish-speaking Republican outreach person that's reaching out to Hispanics, and they're winning a lot of Latinx individuals over, especially those who are more evangelical and those who are pro-life, and so in those areas. And my fear is, if we continue the path, which I believe is a failed path, of Wayne Goodwin and our current chairperson and our county chairperson in Mecklenburg County and our county chairperson in Union County, it will take us a generation, at least 20 years, to win our millennials and our Latinx people back over to the Democratic Party. I believe we're losing them on a daily basis. And that is my fear. I don't fear that they're going to become part of the Republican Party, because I think that will change the Republican Party. But I do fear, as a Democrat, my fear is, because we have taken our community for granted, that we are losing them. I don't know how you feel about that.
No,
in 30 seconds.
I know I'm with you on that,
Yeah.
but I just, in 30 seconds,
Sure.
in 15 seconds,
Yeah.
just tell
As
me,
I eat my bread.
what do you propose is
Great.
what can the Latinx community do
Sure.
to reach the people at the top of the Democratic Party to understand that we are here?
I don't necessarily know that our Latinx community can do anything, but I do believe our allies can do something. For an example, the feminists that are out there, the people that are members of the Black Political Caucus, our allies, and even our progressive LGBTQ members who aren't part of the white gay male and white lesbian establishment here in Charlotte. Our allies can start speaking up and do just like what we do in the real world and corporate world at Bank of America and Wells Fargo. When you know that your culture needs to change, you change it from the top. Because regardless of what you try to do within your organization, if you're trying to change the culture, you've got to cut the head off and change it from the top so it goes. So the first thing we need to do is we need to elect more diversity at our state party. We need to elect more diversity at our county level. So I'm not necessarily saying that we have to have a person of color as a state chairperson, but I am saying we have to have someone who is an ally at that position. I would prefer a person of color.
Or at least someone that's embracing.
Exactly. And so we've got to get rid of Jane Whitley. We've got to get rid of Wayne Goodwin. We've got to get rid of the Union County lady. We've got to get rid of these people who are stuck in their time warp. And we've got to bring new blood into those positions. I would love to see someone like Ray McKinney as our new state party chair, or my goodness, even the Mecklenburg County party chair. Someone like that who can shake things up and
That person
reach
has
out.
to be very aggressive.
They do, and we got that. We got a little bit of that when Matt Newton was elected, when we kicked Mark Friedman out, which he needed to go out. Mark Friedman, and good luck with his restaurant. We got that a little bit with Matt, and then Matt was elected to the city council, and then we've lost. We've gone back 10 years with Jane Whitley, we're a more divisive party. It's all about her. It's not about the Democratic Party. The Union County situation is similar to the state situation. It's all about Wayne Goodwin. It's not really about the party. It's about him being on TV, and he's just trying to stay in the publicity so he can get elected another position. But we need to change those up. And the Republican Party, I believe, needs to do the same thing. But as a Democrat, that concerns me. So I don't necessarily know that we can, or I can do anything. Obviously, I've tried, been kicked out of the state executive committee, so obviously, I still have a voice, I just can't vote. But our allies need to step up, and they need to say, for the sake of our party, and this is the only thing that I'm probably ever going to agree with, one of the few things I'm going to agree with Dan McCready on, because he stole my country over party tagline. I was using country over party before Dan McCready was using it. It's time that we put our North Carolina over our political party, and that we say, whatever political party, it's time for North Carolina Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, all of them to step up to the new world and embrace more diversity.
I agree.
So anyway, that was my soapbox for the day. So we're going to go to answer the social media question, and thank you. We didn't do so bad for just 2 people. Usually we have 3 or 4 people, so I think we did very well. The social media question was breaking news. Many of you may have seen that the courts in North Carolina, the judge panel, I believe, they denied Dan McCready's campaign's request to extend the State Board of Elections tenure. So the State Board of Elections current tenure ends today, I believe, at noon. I believe that's what they're ruling, which has a huge impact, because that means that at noon today, if I'm not mistaken, that they will be dissolved, and the Governor Cooper will have to appoint a new Board of Election, which has an impact on the investigation into the alleged election fraud in Bladen County and some of the other areas. Also it's going to even move back further. Those of us who live in the North Carolina Congressional District number 9, it's going to move us back further from having representation. We talked about this last week. Now we're looking at least the summer before an election. So I know Mark Harris's camp applauded the ruling. It's a very big ruling. I think we're still kind of figuring out what's going on with that. And that is very big. And we talked about this during the last show, that I really felt like I'm sad that we don't have representation. We won't have a seat at the table coming January 3rd because of all of this situation. I hope, I know it's not going to happen, but I hope that they would certify the election, allow Mark Harris to take a seat in Congress. Whether we think he did something wrong or not, that's for the investigators, but at least we'll have a seat at the table so constituent services can continue, and Charlotte will have. But I don't know if that's going to happen. But that's really, really big news. And I wish our friend, our neighbor, Jeff Scott was here, because I'm sure he has a lot to say about that. But it also looks very likely like we are going to have a primary, that we are going to have a Democratic primary, a Republican primary. Libertarians and Green Party people and Constitution Party can enter the race now, which I believe is a good thing for all individuals. Because it will bring more diversity.
Can Christian Connell be in the race?
Christian Connell would not like to, unless No, I mean I'm going to support a progressive person. I'll even support Dan McCready, as I said before, if he's willing to run as a Democrat. You know, just say I'm a Democrat. I will support immigrants. I will support the abolishment of ICE. I'll support getting rid of the 287G program. I'll support our Dreamers. I'll support a women's right. I'll support medical cannabis. These are basic democratic values, and if he will run on that platform instead of this I'm a Marine type of rhetoric, then my family would wholeheartedly vote for him. I don't know if he'll do that, but I of course, I would love for a woman to enter the race. I would love for a person of color in one of our other rural areas to enter the race. I think it's going to be a good thing that happens. So we'll see if that happens. That's breaking news. The next thing we want to do very quickly is read the constitutional quote of the week. So those of us who know, I always carry the Constitution. And today we're going to read on the United States Constitution, Amendment 3. Do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
I'll read it.
Okay.
Amendment 3. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law.
Interesting. We don't often hear about that amendment.
No.
So that's.
As a matter of fact, it's the first time I actually read it.
Well, you know, we always hear about the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, all of the other ones, and so forth. The Fourth Amendment,
Fifth Amendment,
the Fifth Amendment, and the whatever. Yeah, that's interesting amendment. So that is our constitutional quote of the week. And now, as we move towards ending our show, I want to thank everyone for watching us on Facebook Live and on YouTube and on the other outlets as well. I hope that your family did have a wonderful holiday. 2019, I think it's going to be a great year for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
I look forward to seeing what happens within our Latinx community and the continued movement with our young people and those who are running for office. I know that Action NC, the group that we have there, they're doing some wonderful things, a lot of great things. One of the things I think that as a Democrat that we need to look at is, I understand that the Jane Whitley, the Mecklenburg County Democratic Party chairperson, rumor has it that she is under investigation.
I read about something
yes,
like that.
and I think that is going to shake things up in Mecklenburg County, specifically because she's a huge Dan McCready supporter, and it'd be interesting to see if he hangs on to her, if he kind of pushes her aside, so to speak, because I understand in 2005 she was banned from the Democratic Party because of things that occurred, and the North Carolina Democratic Party Inquisition team that I had to meet with that kicked me out of things, that they are looking at her situation to see how she was able to run, because I think people just forgot that happened back in 2005. But that's going to be very interesting. And the reason I bring that up is because our family received an email the last couple of days that she's running again as the county chairperson, which I thought was very interesting that she would send my family that email. But also the North Carolina Democratic Party State Executive Committee is coming to Charlotte in January. They are meeting here in Charlotte for the annual convention conference, and I think that's going to be the topic of conversation on how she's going to explain what happened back in 2005. So that's going to be something interesting. I'm sure we'll be doing more information on that. And
we'll bring you a report.
Yes, we'll bring you a report. And of course, the things that's going on in Robeson County is still people are talking about. But once again, I want to thank everyone for joining us, and I hope that you're going to have a wonderful and safe 2019. Do you have any plans for New Year's Eve? Or
Staying home with my family.
Yeah, we usually go to a sports bar, and there's not any.
I bring the bar to my house.
Yeah, I think
it's a little crazy. Well, it's not like New York, but still. No, I want to see the New Year.
They've got I think they've got a real big thing that goes on downtown Charlotte. believe that happens every year. It's pretty big. I think it's. I've never been, but I think they have something going. Anyway, whatever you decide to do, please Uber. Make sure you drive safely and or Lyft or whatever you use. And so, do you have anything you want to add? Or
Yeah, just
we've covered a lot of.
for those of you, one of the aims of this show is for us to bring materials to you that are of interest, issues that matter. And I think that one of the most important things is this little book, the Constitution. Carlos going to give you our email. You can email the show, or you can tag us and ask for a copy. I think that if you're going to be a avid follower, then you need to study the quotes so that when we read them, you read them, so you know, and for you to be more aware of what the Constitution stands for. It's important because a lot of times things that matter to us come from here.
Exactly. I mean, I've talked about this in the past, and I've been carrying around the copy of the Constitution for probably 10 years now, and I really believe that coming from the hotel industry, that just as it's important to have a copy of the Bible and a copy of the Book of Mormon in hotel rooms, hotels should have copies of the Constitution. To me, it's the American Bible. And I think that would speak volumes for hotels. And
I agree. You never know when your constitutional rights are going to be violated.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I told you. I think I said this before on one of the other shows. The reason I started carrying the Constitution is when Sarah Palin ran, when she was running as running mate for John McCain. Mm-hmm. I remember when Sarah Palin was announced as the vice president choice for John McCain, and as she was traveling, she started to quote stuff from the Constitution. She would say, the Constitution, this, and then the newspapers were saying, well, that's not really true. So then I would look it up. I'm like, that's nowhere in the Constitution. So I said, I better educate myself once again on the Constitution, because people will say Amendment 2 says.
Some people have their own Constitution.
Yeah, and we talked about that the other time. But yeah, so I carry it, and if you ever see me, please ask for a free copy. It comes in Spanish and English. I encourage everyone to read this. And I want to thank everyone for a wonderful 2018. I hope you have a very safe 2019. We hope wonderful things are going to happen for us in 2019 as well. I want to thank our producer who has helped us a lot to mold our show. We still got some fine tuning to do, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
Yes, we are.
And yes, and I I don't know if I'm supposed to say. She's giving me signals, and can you see? Can you see the mirror? All right. On that note, let's go and end the show. So once again, thank you for following us on Coffee Pan Dulce. And if you're watching this later on, thank you very much. And we will see you in 2019. And we will post what the topic is on our Facebook page. And the email address, as Tony said, it's coffeepandulce@gmail.com. coffeepandulce@gmail.com. That's COFFEEPANDULCE@gmail.com. Once again, thank you for joining us, and have a great day. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you. See you next year.
See you next year. Oh, hold on. Alexa, play Pandora. This is for Ruth. All right. Now that's our fade out music.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah, it's called a grito.